Good afternoon, everyone. I'm so excited to be here. And I want to say the only reason I really got my doctorate was so that I could hear Dr. Josie Badger in such an amazing place such as this. So it's pretty cool. So I want to talk to you a little bit about exceptional by choice. I grew up on a farm in the suburbs of Waupun, Pennsylvania. And yes, it is about as exciting as it sounds. I was the child of 2 high school teachers. I was a local 4-H club member and the proud owner of a Yorkshire Terrier. Anything but the extraordinary life. But there was this one little thing. I had a disability. And disability in itself really is not extraordinary. But it did make me realize that ordinary was not enough. I was born with a very rare condition called congenital myasthenia syndrome. Don't worry, if you've never heard of it, most doctors have not heard of it. And in general, it causes me to have very fatigued muscles. So anything that I do repetitively, so talking, breathing, even reading can become very difficult the longer I do it. And as you can imagine, without a diagnosis or understanding of that, it caused quite a few problems growing up. So I would go to Children's Hospital where I was a frequent flyer, and I did not get the bonus miles though, but I would go in not being able to breathe, hardly being able to move, take a little vacation on a ventilator there, and look like a brand new kid. I would be then sent home cured, and then repeat the cycle all over again. So growing up in a medical environment makes for a fairly strange childhood, and thus a fairly strange child. I grew up thinking, most young adult or kids, 3 or 4-year-olds, are thinking about their alphabet, coloring inside the lines. No, I thought about germs, and I thought about whether I was reaching those developmental milestones. But I quickly realized that whenever you are growing up and you have all these little strange idiosyncrasies, those strange things that make you weird as a kid get you a doctorate when you're an adult. So it worked for my advantage. And so one part of growing up with a disability is that you learn very fast what stigma is. You know that when you look disabled, people are going to treat you differently. And I knew I had a lot of labels growing up. I was called the special ed student, disabled child, exceptional child. And I wasn't really sure if I was Josie the Wonder Child or if I just had more warning labels and a hairdryer. Wasn't sure. And so that really affected then how I perceived myself. I knew that labels were for jars, not for me. And so from that little bit of knowledge I found, or I thought I knew, about disability, I ran with it. I was the most anti-disabled person with a disability that you would ever meet. And so I would spend my time trying to not look so disabled. I would go to the extent of not using my ventilator in school just so I didn't look as disabled. And by the time I would get home, I was so exhausted that that's all I did was survive. And when I would use my ventilator in public, I knew that there were going to be more people commenting on me or complimenting me on, oh wow, it's so great to see you out. You inspire me. Well, although that was a compliment, I didn't get those warm, fuzzy feelings from that compliment. So I really tried to avoid them, but the compliments happen, and as the great philosopher Taylor Swift would say, you have to shake it off, shake it off. So, thank you. Go Taylor. And so I grew up with that mentality. And then, in 11th grade, when you're at maybe a Christmas party or a family reunion, and every 11th grader goes through this, you get asked, well, what are you going to do? What degree are you going to get? What's going to be your career for the next 40 years? Do you have a retirement plan set up? Well, of course I'd have an answer. So I was going to be a marine biologist. But you think about it, I don't swim, and I am petrified of water. So that required a little more self-reflection. So during my 11th grade year, I was forced out of duress from my mother to attend a national conference for youth leaders with disabilities. I remember going there, and I remember complaining the whole way, yeah. And that's what teenagers do really well. And I was like, I'm not like those people. I don't want to sit around and complain about my life, and that's all I thought I would get out of it. Because at that point in my life, I still thought that exceptionality was about having a disability. It was about a state. It was about belonging to the genetic mutation club. And that was not the club I wanted to be a part of. I wanted to be exceptional based on my own merits, not some other group that somebody else perceived that I was a part of. So I got there, and that first night changed my life forever. I sat in a room full of youth with disabilities who were leaders. And for the first time, I saw the truest and purest exceptionality that I believe exists. They were not exceptional because of a state. They were exceptional because of what they chose. They chose to take everything that life gave them, become their best, either because of it or in spite of it. But they also knew that leadership is the best when you share it with others. And they were willing to take their time to invest in people like me who, as of yet, did not accept myself or who I was created to be. So for the next 10 years, I worked on developing youth leadership programs. And in 2012, I had the opportunity of a lifetime. I was asked to speak at the One Young World Conference, where over 1,000 young leaders from over 144 countries came together to talk about and address global issues. We had speakers like Jamie Oliver and Bill Clinton talking, and I was asked to talk. I was so humbled by that experience. So I was feeling pretty good about myself, And I had good shoes on. I was ready. And I was up there. I gave my 3-minute speech about youth development and disability leadership. And it was done at Augusta Innovation. I was ecstatic. Then the difference between exceptionality by choice and by state reared its ugly little head up again. So at the end of the panel, I was still upstage, and a young man named Ju Hay approached the microphone to ask questions. And he said, why did Josie Badger get a standing ovation? We've been surrounded by amazing leaders all day. And the following night, why did she get a standing ovation? the room went silent. And of course, I was still on stage and wanted to throw up in a small ball and die. I think after he realized how that sounded, he did as well. And so, a few months passed, and the question continued to bother me. Why would this young man get up in front of the whole world, basically, just to insult me? Well, about that time, Yuhei emailed me. I was a little hesitant to open the email. And so I opened it, and he said, hey, can I come to Pittsburgh and to talk to you, get to know you a little bit better? So I said yes. So he flew in to Pittsburgh, and we spent a very lovely weekend together. He talked a lot about who he was. And by getting to understand him, I understood what he meant by his question. You see, Yuhei was from Japan. And in 2004, the tsunami had devastated his country. There were hundreds of thousands of people lost. And of those who were still alive, there was not many employment opportunities, especially for women and people with disabilities. So with that knowledge, he went back to those communities and worked to create a business that would take fishing line and debris from the tsunami and make jewelry. And he gave those jobs to women and people with disabilities. You see, Yuhei was not talking about Josie doesn't deserve a standing ovation. He was saying, are you standing up for Josie or her disability? And by not standing up, he stood up for me and my dignity more than I could ever imagine. At that same session now, at One Young World, I was walking off stage and I was approached by a young man from the UK. And he looked at me and said, I think you saved my life. No, I know you saved my life. And he went on to say that he had an invisible disability that he was embarrassed of, and that he had planned to commit suicide after the summit. And by me talking about and being open about my disability and disability pride, and that all of us have a gift to share, whether it's because of our life or in spite of it, it changed his mind. You see, exceptionality doesn't come from your job or your education or where you grew up or your parents or your money or your disability. Exceptionality comes from what you do with all of that and the choices you make and how you share those with others. Thank you.